and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic for you this evening. Let's do it. What's a creepy encounter you've had that you still think about years later? Please remember to like, share, comment, hype, listen and ask for shoutouts, and subscribe. I was camping with some friends. We were all sitting around the fire having a good time and preparing to go hiking the next day. Normally there were tons of people in the area, but that night we were the only ones. It's a big field with a bunch of primitive campsites, and we had picked the one in the center where someone had built a rather large fire pit. I noticed a strange light in the sky that seemed to be hovering over the trees and getting closer. I thought at first it was a helicopter, maybe searching for a lost hiker, but as it got closer, there was no sound. As I pointed it out to my friends and it got closer, the dread came over me that I've never felt before or since. I was terrified, just sheer terror to the point I started crying. We all watched as it broke the tree line, and the spotlight on whatever it was shone on the grass of the field as it got closer to us. I will never forget all of us grabbing onto each other, just absolutely being scared out of our minds. Then, poof, nothing. The light was gone and we were all sitting as we were before. It was the strangest thing that has ever happened to me. And I remember all of us just staring at each other, trying to wrap our heads around what happened. I don't remember letting go of my friends. I don't remember stopping crying or watching it leave. It's like we just dropped out of some timeline. We all confirmed what we had seen, the feeling of terror it gave us, and the inexplicable jump back to normal. I wish we had been thinking to check out watches for lost time, but to be honest, all of us were so freaked out, we just packed up and left. This was 15 plus years ago, and I've never experienced anything like it since. Something that still freaks me out when I think about it. I had set my alarm for 7 a.m. the previous night, and it went off as planned the following morning, and I hit snooze a couple of times. After the alarm went off again, I grabbed my phone and started looking at something, probably Instagram or text messages, can't remember. I set my phone down and took a deep breath, about to get out of bed, and all of a sudden I heard the sound of footsteps walking. For reference, I live in a very old house, and the floors do creak a bit in my room when walking across. At this point, I'm still under the covers and lying facing my wall. I hear the footsteps and instantly freeze. My body felt like it was on fire because I was so scared. At that time of morning, no one should be in my house. Parents would have left for work. The footsteps were very slow. I couldn't bring myself to turn around. I just lay there frozen. I started to think this could be a dream, mainly because I could hear my dog snoring in his bed that is on the floor next to my bed. He's very protective and would have instantly alerted me if anyone had entered my room, yet he was soundly asleep. Then the footsteps were right behind me, and I could feel someone there. And then the part that I have no explanation for. All of a sudden, I'm being deafened, but by what I can only describe as what sounded like hundreds of people screaming. It sounded like the scene in Percy Jackson, the Lightning Thief movie, when they're being ferried into the underworld, and all the lost souls scream below them. It was exactly like that. At this point, I'm still frozen in fear, start to hyperventilate because I have no clue what is going on, but I can bring myself to turn around and am so confused as to why my dog isn't barking. It subsides after a few minutes, and I just continue lying there, my back still to my room and me staring at the wall I'm facing. After an hour of just lying there trembling under my blankets, I feel my dog jump up onto the bed and lie next to me. I turn around and all is normal. To this day, I have no clue what it was. Couldn't have been a dream because I never went back to sleep after hearing those noises. I haven't spoken about this in years, but it's a weird one. I left school at 18 and moved to New Zealand, where my family is from. My auntie and uncle said I could live with them for as long as I needed to, which was cool. But a few weird things had been happening around the house over the past 2 months since moving in. But this wasn't anything to be overly concerned about. Maori people are very spiritual and usually aren't spooked easily. When I turned up at the house, I could instantly tell there was a weird energy about the place. The neighborhood was very nice with new build houses and lovely gardens. However, the house of ours was noticeably grayer, and the garden looked desaturated in color compared to the neighbors. My auntie told me how she couldn't seem to grow any fruits or vegetables here either. The whole property felt eerie. My cousin and his daughter were also living in the house. She was 3 at the time. Over the course of the next few months, stranger things started to happen. My cousin's daughter, 4 years old, started seeing this man around the house, saying he's talking to her or sometimes just standing in the doorway watching us. This is giving me goosebumps just typing this. Around the same time this starts happening, I start to hear things around the house. One time I was at home, only me and my uncle in the house. I was lying in bed and I heard my little cousin's voice, laughing in the hallway, and then running through the house. I cannot express how clearly I heard this. I jumped out of bed to check, and there was nothing. I walked the whole house, and there was no one there, not even outside. My uncle came out of his room and said, "Did you hear that too?" I said yes, and he said, "Okay, thank God." I wish this was where the story ends. Some weeks later, as all of this is intensifying, my uncle takes me to the bottom of the garden. There's a garage down there I never went in. My uncle starts to tell me more about the house, saying that the landlord was an old friend of his, and he was killed on his bike a year before. His wife and kids moved out of the house after this happened, but kept his stuff there. He opens the garage door, and sure enough, there it is, hung up on the wall, the bike and helmet the landlord had been killed using. My uncle tells me how he fears this guy's spirit is still living in the house. Looking back, I should have left and then there, but I decided to stay. Young and stupid, obviously. Things gradually got worse, and the house started to attract more and more bugs. Literally thousands of flies, crickets, cockroaches, etc. would find their way into the house. This isn't uncommon in New Zealand, but the amount we had was definitely uncommon. The majority of these bugs would walk freely under a locked door in the center of the house. I asked my uncle what was in the room, and he said he didn't know, but that the landlord's wife had locked some more of his stuff in there after he'd been killed. At this point, we knew something was totally not right with this house, and I decided to move out. I said I'd move back in with them once they moved somewhere else, so I could go traveling for a few weeks. Whilst I was traveling, my auntie rang me and told me what had happened the night before. My uncle had always claimed he felt something was in his bedroom, stuck to the corner of the ceiling whilst he slept, and that he thought this being wanted to kill him. My auntie said he woke up the night before and was paralyzed. This thing then jumped onto the end of the bed and started strangling him. My auntie wakes up next to him and has to perform an exorcism of sorts. I shit you not. Writing this down for the first time since this happened 5 years ago, and I'm sweating while writing it. It was truly the most weird, disturbing, paranormal experience of my life. My uncle did get someone to come bless the house, and we were told there was a bad presence there, and that we needed to move, and also not to take anything that belonged to that house with us. We were told to wash everything, so that not even dirt was taken away from the property. During the moving out process, I told my uncle we have to tell anyone looking around this house about our experience, which we did. I'm not sure if anyone ever moved in after us. I'm sure they did. I hope they're okay and moved away too eventually. Sorry for my whisper quiet comment tonight in what looks like some type of reality show confessional booth, but the truth is my wife is sleeping next to me and little Batman is sitting in my legs. A little after midnight here, and things are going great. So I just wanted to say hello to everybody. We did get a lot of snow here on Long Island. Some areas got near 2 feet, so there's a lot of digging out today, but all's well. So if you did get pounded by the snow in the Northeast, I hope you guys are doing well and staying safe out there. See you soon. A lot of creepy things started happening in my mom's house one year when I was in high school. I'm not the type to believe in anything supernatural, so I still have no idea what could have caused this sort of experience. The worst night began with my sister and me staying up till 1 a.m., which wasn't unusual in itself. I woke back up quite suddenly at 1:15, wide awake, despite being exhausted. At the foot of the bed, there were these unusual shadows. I looked closely because usually that whole area was lit up. As I was trying to figure out what was causing the shadows, I saw the shadow of an arm slowly come up from the foot of the bed and rest along the wall. My sister was next to me and hadn't moved, and we were about as far back as you could get, so there was no explanation for the hand. At this point, I was pretty freaked out, and I looked towards my left, in the opposite direction of the hand. I'm completely blind on my left side. But the closet door on that side was entirely a mirror. In the mirror, I could see a little girl standing in the middle of the room directly next to my bed, staring at my sister and me. There was no children in the house that night. Now I'm terrified, so I'm shaking my sister, trying to wake her up. My sister is the type that the lightest touch in her sleep will immediately wake her, and I was shaking her whole body, but she wouldn't wake up. I couldn't deal with this on my own, so I looked away from the mirror back toward the hand, but it was gone, and now the entire foot of the bed was shadowy except for 2 dots. I couldn't figure out what they were, so I was focusing really hard on them, trying to come up with a reasonable explanation. Then I realized the dots were more like eyes, and the shadows looked like an outline or someone standing there, but I wasn't sitting up, and the only thing that could have caused a shadow like that was if someone was standing directly behind me. I didn't look. I felt my hair get yanked back, but I knew no one else in the house was awake, and they certainly wouldn't be messing with my hair at 1 a.m. if they were. Things got a lot creepier and a lot worse from there. I didn't sleep the whole rest of the night. It took 2 hours to wake my sister. I still pretend I was hallucinating that night and the next day, but she saw the same thing I did once she woke up. I used to work at a large mouse-owned theme park in California. People claim it's haunted all the time. I don't believe in ghosts, but I was closing up the now-defunct Fantasyland Theater. The backstage was a bit of a graveyard for props that were too weird or big to go elsewhere. There was this giant godforsaken enchanted mirror puppet thing from an old show, and I mean like 15 feet tall. I hated looking at it. Its jaw dangled open at rest. Anyway, across from the Mirror of the Damned was a cage where we kept spare costume pieces. The lights were on a timer, like on a hot tub, and I meant damn sure it wasn't going to run out on me. Didn't want to get stuck with the creepy freaking mirror. 10 minutes to go, and I'm looking up, and the second I let go of the padlock, the lights go out. I squeal like the adult I am and flee the vicinity of the mirror glowing in the safety blues. Everything else in the main costume storage was ready to go. I just needed to lock the door. I let the door swing shut and fumbled for the keys. the door flew back open and slammed into the wall. Not on a spring, no wind, against gravity, absolutely no reason it should have done that. I shrieked again, and then it slammed closed. Anyway, at some point they remodeled the theater, and that monstrosity of a mirror got sent back to hell where it belongs. But I still blame it for my inability to be the last one out of a dark workplace without hustling. When I was around the age of 8, I and my family all lived with my grandparents temporarily because our house was being remodeled, and they lived fairly close and had a spare room. About 2 months before our house was fully done, all the lights were in, basically all the finishing touches. It was late at night, and my family was awake talking. We were watching The Tonight Show, and it was around 12:46 when we finally decided to go to bed, since my mom worked in the morning and I had school. Then, we all wake up at around 3:50 a.m. to loud banging on the walls, and the gate outside being played with. My dad says he thought someone was trying to break in, and my dad runs for any type of weapon. The kitchen was 10 feet away, so he grabs a random utensil, and we look outside and see a freakishly tall guy. I'm talking, this man looked like he was around 7'5", and he stood over the gate, which is about 6 feet tall, and is looking for any signs we're awake. He's unarmed, and so my dad opens the door and begins talking to him. The man goes on about his car breaking down near the side of the house, and we look over and don't see a car. There's a decent-sized window you can see the curb near that side of the house from, and my dad is talking to him when my mom notices something. He's dressed in ragged clothing and looks straight out of the 1800s. This freaks us out, and we signal for my dad. This end to the conversation and go back inside, and he says there's a mechanic down the street. A lie, and the man thanks us a few times and leaves. After he does, we are all whispering about this guy and checking the cameras. He's nowhere to be found. We checked hours before and after he was there, and we ended up seeing us on the camera and my dad talking to the gate, but the guy wasn't there. To this day, we all have no clue who this guy is or was. When I was 19, I drove to work one day and parked in the area farthest from the store, as employees were instructed to. I stepped out of my car, locked the door, and began walking toward the store when a vehicle pulled up quickly in front of me, blocking my path. A middle-aged man jumped out of the driver's seat and ran at me, stopping a few feet away. He was furious and screamed insults and profanities. His wife ran over to him and gripped one of his arms, saying she doesn't realize what she did. He was a large man, very agitated and not making any sense. His hands were in fists, and I feared he would physically attack me. His wife continued to attempt to calm him down and told him they needed to leave. I was planning which way I would need to run when another employee drove up, rolled down his window, and asked what was going on. This snapped him out of this rage enough to realize he could get in trouble for his threats. He and his wife got back in their car and drove off. I'm now 60, and I still have no idea what I did to anger him. I feel sorry for his wife and suspect she took the brunt of this anger often. What a terrifying experience. When I was a kid, maybe 9 or 10, I remember waking up in the middle of the night one night and seeing my mom watching me from my bedroom doorway, in her nightgown smoking a cigarette. Not uncommon, but for some reason I felt super uncomfortable and got really creeped out. My heart started beating. I got goosebumps and all of that. I ended up being so scared I hid under my covers and eventually fell back asleep. I asked her about it the next morning, and she swore that it wasn't her. Why would she lie about something like that? For some reason, that memory always stuck in my head. Fast forward 20 years or so, I moved back into my childhood home. I've lived back here 3 years, and this past summer, my roommate told me about the weird dream he had that he felt like he could see someone watching him sleep. He said he could make out the figure of a woman, but her face and details were blurry. He told me how creeped out he felt, and he woke up profusely sweating. I immediately got chills on my whole body. I told him the same story of my childhood. He's sleeping in my old room and has had his bed in the exact same position as my bed at the time. I do know that an elderly lady passed away in the house about 30 years prior to my parents moving in 1988. But other than that, there's no history on my house. I really wonder if it's just a coincidence or if someone had been watching me sleep my whole childhood and I had only seen them that one time. My best friend and I were hanging out by ourselves in her family's cabin, with just a few other cabins nearby. We were about 10. Her folks had gone out to visit some people nearby, and we just planned to play some games for the evening. Of course, we locked the door. It was totally dark out, and all the cabin windows were uncovered. Basically, we were in a fishbowl. About an hour later, the little poodle started growling, and we heard someone wearing heavy boots walking around the cabin, stopping at the windows, then continuing on around the building. We continued staring at the game board and didn't look up at the windows, trying to pretend we hadn't heard anything. This person, presumably a guy, tried doorknobs on the front and back doors. My friend calmly got up to get the gun, a BB rifle, taking her time so whoever it was could see she had a weapon. Then I calmly got up to close the curtain over the windows, whoever was left, and our hearts were pounding like crazy until her parents got back. Her dad was a tough guy and ran out to see if he could see anyone hanging around their cabin or any of the neighboring cabins. He was pissed, but was happy to know we didn't panic. There was no phone, and we didn't know where her parents had gone. Others around would have heard us screaming, I suppose, had anything gotten worse.